You're listening to CFDb Interviews, and we're here today with Rebekah Cook, actress, coach, casting director, and script supervisor. Thank you, Rebekah, so much for taking the time to talk with me today. Do I have your permission to start recording the interview?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'd like to ask, first of all, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your role within the Christian film industry.
Sure. Well, my name is Rebekah Cook, of course. First of all, I'm a follower of Christ. That's the core of my identity. I was homeschooled along with my four siblings, and I grew up in Spain as a missionary kid. I lived there nearly 20 years. I All my life I've been drawn to three things. Number one, serving God with my life. I also love working with children, and the performing arts have always held this really special place in my heart. And so in 2009, I moved to the States to seek training and experience in screen acting. And now, as I said, I'm an actress, coach, casting director, script supervisor. I've worked as cast or crew on 12 feature films. They're all strong stories of Christian faith. That's really where my heart is. And although my passion definitely lies with acting, along the way I found great joy in working as crew in various departments. A lot of actors talk about having a day job, and that for me. My older brother and sister got involved in the Christian film ministry about the same time, and I've really loved working with them on several films. But I love being a part of the film on either side of the camera now. On crew, it's fun to get to see the whole story unfold. Whereas as an actor, sometimes you're just there on set a few days out of the entire shooting schedule. So,
Good point. So with your family, also being involved in that, is that part of the reason why you became involved in the industry, or is this something you've always had a desire for? Or?
you know, I was 15 when the idea first hit, and my brother had been looking into media and everything, but that wasn't the reason. I'd always loved acting, but it never occurred to me to act for film until this moment. I was watching a Christian movie I'd seen, several times before, but I'd really been seeking God for a few months as to what I should do with my life. It always been my heart to wait for His will to be clear to me on what I should pursue. And for some reason that year, it was just super important to know right then. Everything feels so big at that age. And I believe God planted that dream in my heart as I watched that film, because I was like, God, I just want to impact people like that, because it was really touching my heart in a deep place. And he didn't speak to me audibly, but I could feel the words. Like he said, I've equipped you to do that. I was like, whoa. I was scared. I was like, am I making this up? Because I thought nobody gets called to act, right? I mean, that's a weird calling. Um, but I said, well, um, God, that was really you planting that desire in my heart, because I believe He does give us desires that He will fulfill. I said, if that was you and not just me, then please make that desire grow and show me what to do with it, because I had no clue. Here am over in Spain. Most of the Christian stuff, in fact, all of it that I know of, is happening in the States. And I'm like, well, how do I even get over there? I'm living with my parents now. I'm working with them. That's great. How am I supposed to get training? Anything? So I was looking into different colleges, because I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it right. I want to do it with excellence for the Lord. And every time I just didn't feel peace. And God laid the word apprenticeship on my heart. I don't do that anymore. That's in history books. What would that even look like for me? But it was really neat how He did show me what to do with it. I just started even just searching online and studying as much as I could myself. When we come over on furlough, I'd get all these books out from the library to do the subject and just study up. And it wasn't until I was 20 that I set foot on my first film set as an extra. So a lot of preparation there, but I believe God just had me on the right path.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because a lot of times when you receive that call,
Mm-hmm.
you think it's going to be something immediate and you can't quite picture out how is that going to work out.
Yeah.
But yet a lot of times it takes years and years.
Mm-hmm.
So are you able to share what film it was that inspired you so much?
Sure. It was made by a church in Oklahoma, I believe, and it's a uh, sci-fi genre. It's called The Sword, and the plot is there's these super kids. Basically, it's kind of like a Christian training ground for these kids after this very.
I love that movie.
Have you seen it? Yeah. So it was during a song because it's a musical as well, and it was talking about knowing who you are in Jesus. And of course, that was all what I was about at that point was trying to find my identity that God had given me. So yeah, that was it.
That's pretty amazing because when I first started watching Christian film,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the series that my husband popped in. He wasn't my husband at the time, but he popped it in for me to watch, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just so not interested in this. It's so young, and I just was not interested at all. It just seemed so, I don't know, just not like the worldly films, right?"
Sure.
And then it was like, I don't know how much longer, maybe a year later, I looked and I watched the whole series again
Mm-hmm.
and absolutely loved it. And not only did I love it, but the songs in them were so powerful.
Hard. Yeah.
And I often wondered what happened to some of the kids that actually played
Mm.
in those films if they actually went on to do anything else in Christian movies. So that's something I'll have to research and find out for sure. That's great to hear how you got involved with that.
Yeah, I grew up
So
with those, and they really made an impact. That's
yeah,
that for me. So.
it's amazing how powerful Christian film can really be.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it has really impacted a lot of people's lives, which is so important. Um, I know that one of the films that you were into, I did want to ask you a little bit about that one about In His Steps,
Mm-hmm.
because that was one of my most favorite books of all times, and I've read it several different times.
Nice.
If you could just share with us a little bit about the role you played and how that was for you.
Yeah, yeah. I first read In His Steps in high school, and well, age, and I was homeschooled. We didn't really care about the grade assignments much, but yeah, I read that book and it really impacted me. Like Rachel, I'm a singer. Rachel is a character in the book, and she is a singer and trying to figure out how to use her gift for God. And so she was actually the role that I was going for.
Great.
But I auditioned for Virginia as well, and that's the role I ended up getting. And I'm so glad that it worked out that way. I Virginia Page was a really fascinating character for me once I dived into her and started doing the research. She is a best way to put it is spoiled rich heiress. This is a snapshot, but there's a lot more to her than that. Her grandmother is now raising her and her brother because her parents had passed away. And for Virginia, it's all about appearances now because her grandmother has taught her that that's what's important. Their station in life and keeping up that image, not that they don't have the money to back that up, but even just personally and for her identity, it's become reduced to that. And so she doesn't really know who she is or what God has called her to do with her money or otherwise. So the plot of the story is there's this group of people at a small church who take a pledge to do what Jesus would do in every situation for 1 year. And Virginia is one of the ones that takes that step. And for her, it's so huge because her grandmother is against it. And for her to cross her grandma on anything is a big deal. And for an entire year, that's a long experiment. So she has to figure out what does that mean for her. This pledge everybody's taking. She feels like she doesn't have the same challenges. She doesn't have a job to test there. She does, it's all these
Yeah.
life things. So she feels like she doesn't have anything to do until she's challenged by the pastor to go help in a local soup kitchen that just started up. And that is a challenge because she's never rubbed shoulders with, as she would consider it, lower classes. um, so it's a huge step of faith for her. But, if you take friends along, it's less scary. So she takes Rachel and Jasper, another one of the people. So they go over there, and she ends up getting super involved. I'm not sure how much I want to spoil the movie for you, but
Yeah, don't spoil it too much.
it ends up becoming a very defining process in her life, and her outlook completely changes. So it was a really neat journey to take a character on. I really enjoyed playing her.
Yeah, I've only seen bits and pieces of it yet. I'm actually waiting to get the movie so that we can review it too. It's one I want to see the whole thing. So I would like you to tell us a little bit more about what you offer as a personalized coach.
Sure. Yeah, my first experience as a coach actually was on the set of Indescribable. And that was the third movie that I worked on. And the main characters in that film are kids. And there's four of them, all siblings in the story. And so the director, Stacey Graber, uh, I had expressed to her that I was willing to work with them if they needed that, some coaching. And there were some really emotional scenes. And so she called upon me and said, would you work with certain ones of them for these? And I did, and it was so rewarding. I love working with kids, of course. That was a great fit, but just delving into the nuances of what I've studied just on my own or different classes I've taken, and helping to communicate that to others. I don't know if it's growing up bicultural and bilingual, just learning to break down those communication barriers. But I love helping communicate those concepts until they click, and seeing those breakthroughs. Uh, I've yet to meet someone else who's an actress and has worked casting and is also a script supervisor. So what I do is I use those disciplines to strengthen each other. So when I'm coaching someone, I can pull from any or all of those hats, if you will, uh, to give practical tips for the situation. Now, there's a wide range of needs that each actor has. Each person's different. I'm even different at different points, to what I need. So I have them fill out a form to understand where they're at, where they want to go as an actor. And then from that, I create a lesson plan just for them. If they want coaching for a specific audition, I can do that. Um, if they're looking for advice for formatting their resume or choosing headshot or other branding issues, we can do that. They want a scene partner to run lines with or go deeper script analysis and character development. They want to find more auditions. We talk about that. There's great ways to find out about new castings. I was recently contacted actually by a young lady I worked with on a film. She was a PA, and she wants to learn about script supervision. It wasn't even about acting. I said, hey, great, I love to teach. If it's something I know about, come pick my brain. Uh,
Right.
so I try to keep the rates super affordable because I know when I was there, I know what it's like to uh, feel like proper training is far away and accessible. I grew up across the ocean, right? But one of the glories and benefits of technology, I think, is such a blessing, is I don't have to be in the same place as someone to be able to connect with them. There were some students I had at a casting and auditioning workshop earlier this year that wanted to learn more and receive personal feedback and counsel about their careers. So with the internet, I'm able to meet that need.
Which is amazing. So is it also, since you have the experience in a lot of different realms of the filmmaking process, not just the acting, are you also able to coach in some other areas then?
If you contact me and it's not an area of my expertise, I can always refer you to someone else. But yeah, I'm super comfortable talking about the crew side or the acting side or even how those relate. There's been several films that I've worked as cast and crew and had to juggle those. So that's an interesting process as well. But let's see, I've a bit of set dressing, not much of that. I've worked AD team a couple times. Script supervision is what I've done the most on the production crew side. And then I've done casting a few times as well. Someone did contact me and say, hey, can I be your casting assistant sometime? So I may look into what that might look like at some point. So, yeah.
That sounds great. So are there any other upcoming faith projects that you're involved with now that you can tell us about?
Well, Inner Steps, Indescribable, and Treasure in Heaven are all available on DVD already. Love Covers All is a family drama that I worked on last fall. It'll be available in stores on October 7th of this year. Christmas Grace, that's one I had a major part in. It's negotiating a limited theatrical release for this Christmas. I'm really excited about that one. It was a feature film finalist along with Inner Steps and others at the Christian Worldview Film Festival, which you should check out. It inaugurated this year, that festival did, and I hope to be there next year teaching again. Um, Beyond the Mask is an action adventure movie set right before the American Revolution. Very exciting story. It's about an assassin who disguises himself as an Anglican minister in an attempt to escape his past. And it premieres later on this year. The Surrender and the screenwriters are also, I believe, slated for release later this year. They're still in post production, so we'll see how that goes. I worked on a short this spring called Wanted about a foster child who's aging out of the system. Really
Mm.
good story, and that should be out later this year. Have to wait a little bit for Princess Cut and Polycarp. Polycarp is a true story about a martyr in the second century. The Bishop Polycarp was martyred at age 86. So that's a really neat story. It's told from the perspective of a 10-year-old girl who comes into his care. And those will probably be released early 2015. But you can learn more about any of these. There's plenty of links for trailers and other cool stuff at my website. I have a tab called Films. You can get more details on any of the projects I've worked
That's quite a lot.
on.
That was more than I imagined. You just kept naming and naming, and I was thinking, wow, that's just amazing to be involved in so many at once. And like you said earlier in the interview, you were saying how with the acting it's a little different because you don't always get the full picture.
Right.
So I'm just curious. So I'm just throwing out a new question for you. What is it really like to walk in the either at the end or the middle of a movie and just, work as an actress or an actor and do your lines and then leave but have not the whole picture? What is it actually like?
Yeah, that was me on Christmas Grace. One of the ones where I wasn't on crew, and so I came in a week later to the production, and they'd already had a week of filming under their belt, and it wasn't, it wasn't like at the end of the shoot, so I was able to make friends quickly, like I wanted to do, and it was good. The director was very gracious, and it honestly, it felt pretty natural. Um, that one to just come in and do my scenes and connect with the people. And because I had, they by that point in the schedule, we were doing a lot of my scenes I had some downtime here and there, but I was pretty involved and just in downtime talk to people on set or run my lines. And it was honestly, it felt a little bit relaxing because the previous couple of ones I'd done were the cast and crew juggle with just a tug of war in your brain, like which am I doing right now? And so it was really a good experience to just do the acting. But I guess the weird part for me was when I went to the premiere for it in Michigan last December, and I realized I wasn't there when they filmed this scene or the other scene. So it was really like watching this new story for me. Whereas if I'm, say, a script supervisor for a film, I'm there for every scene that's filmed. I have it all in my head. I'm even doing estimating these edits in my mind for to give time estimates at the end of the day. So I feel like I have seen the movie several different versions. But for this one, I was like, oh, this is so cool to see how the story came to life because I only saw my part. So that was really neat.
It's pretty interesting because I know a lot of people really want to get into acting, and I don't think they realize the ins and outs of the acting and how it actually is.
Yeah,
I think it's way different from what we picture as
mm,
watching the end result.
right. Well, if you don't mind, I'll kind of explain a part of the process of how I got here with acting,
Sure.
casting actually, because those two kind of went hand in hand for me and surprised me. Said earlier about how God had laid the word apprenticeship on my heart, and I was like, well, what does that mean? Well, in beginning of 2010, uh, both my brother and I actually ended up interning with the same film group. We didn't know we'd end up in the same place, but we did. And that was in Northern Virginia, working with Advent Film Group. Our whole family went to a workshop by them in July of 2009, and it was really fascinating. They actually didn't teach a whole lot about the acting aspect. It was more the business side, which my brother was super excited about. But I ended up feeling peace about going there as well. And one of the first features that I worked on with them was Alone Yet Not Alone.
Mm.
And George put me in the casting department for that as a casting assistant. I'd been helping him earlier with proofreads of the script, and I'd been hearing his thoughts and notes on it. Since he was going to be directing, he said, "Well, I would like you to write up the character profiles for a casting breakdown." And I said, "Oh, okay, I can try to do that. I've never seen one before, but but I did, and it was a great learning on the job experience. And then I just dove right into helping with the casting and worked with that full time for 6 months because we had over 70 speaking roles to cast.
Wow.
So weeding through hundreds of video submissions. I was the reader for our live callbacks when we went on this trip to different locales to see the actors in person. So I got to play the Indian chief or the little girl crying with whatever scene partner for the actor that was auditioning. And that was amazing as an actress, just being able to get that experience collaborating with all these different actors. It was uh, one of my favorite experiences for that because I got to act for 3 days straight, like all the time because it was person after person. And I learned a lot too. And looking back, I really count that casting assistant position as a huge part of my acting education because not only was I able to learn about just the different styles of acting or directing that they've used with all the actors, but what works for the camera, what doesn't work, and just seeing all the business side of it from the other side. Going into an audition now, it's much less scary because I know what's happening on the other side. And so if there's an actor out there, if you're able to volunteer as a reader or help with casting somewhere, it'll teach you a lot. Um, that was, I guess, fulfilling my apprenticeship part of the dream. And really, yeah, you know, it's been a roller coaster since then. I've been working in film pretty much full time for the last almost 5 years. Just last year, I crossed state lines over 90 times. Uh, I worked on films in 10 different states now. Don't mind adding to the list. Haven't made it out to California if anybody's listening. Uh, but yeah, it's really been a cool journey for me.
Well, it's great advice, and I know I've been to other seminars where they discuss the fact that if you can volunteer somewhere with a film, it's really beneficial for you. Don't always just look for the money part of it,
Yes.
because it could be invaluable, the experience that you would get just from volunteering as a cast crew or even in the acting part of it.
Yeah.
So I do want to ask if,
That accept volunteers, and it can be really valuable to see what happens on that side. With it being my day job, I'm able to keep up those industry connections and learn more each time I'm on set. Oh, this would be an easier way to find my focus mark or things like this. So it's really good.
I can actually see people listening to the interview and or reading it and thinking, oh, maybe I'm not just interested in acting. Maybe there's something even more interesting than acting,
Hmm.
because it's fascinating, the whole film industry process, and the more you talk, the more I realize that there's so much more to it.
Aw.
And so I think other people will realize that as well, and might think about doing some volunteering and apprenticeship. So I did want to ask if there's anything else that you wanted to share with the Christian Film Database listeners that you haven't already covered.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a couple things actually. I just want to reiterate that as an actor, almost anyone, but especially as an actor, I think it's important to have a strong hold on your own identity in Christ. I
Absolutely.
can throw myself into role after role, and sometimes it's really tempting to try and find or lose myself in those roles. But the true me, my true life, is hidden in Christ. It's not about how juicy a role I get or how well known I become, but about representing my Savior well in all that I do. When I first got that dream of acting, I I didn't know what to do with it because I'd always wanted to be a missionary, like my parents. And I didn't realize until a few years later that the entertainment industry is a mission field. God was,
Absolutely.
this is what I'm calling you to because your heart is to be a missionary. It's not even all about the product. The stories that we're putting together, those are important. But I believe that the process, the journey we go on, and the people we interact with along the way we honor the Lord and how we conduct our productions, you know, even on the same filmmaking team and cast, just the testimony that I've seen come out from that, it's just as important. And I'm still and always an ambassador of Christ, no matter what my job title may be as an actor or as a crew person. And then, secondly, just to remember that God is the master storyteller. My mom used to read books aloud to us, even as we grew older in our schooling, and they are the stories that I remember the best. And when we get to the end of a chapter, it would leave us hanging. So we're holding our breath to know what would happen next, right? And
Yeah.
that's what my life feels like from time to time. I can't know what's around the corner, what plot twist God may be throwing in there, but I know that I can trust Him and that the story will be good, have a satisfying ending, even if I can't see it yet. I don't know how long this chapter, this season of my life will last, but I'm okay with that. God's brought me this far, and I'm so thankful for the deep friendships I've developed with. I call them my film families. Um, when they meet each other, they're like cousins. If my story inspires anyone, really, please don't make it about copying the chapters God wrote in my life, but rather make it about trusting God to write your story because each story is different, and that's beautiful.
That is beautiful. It's very true, and I'm glad that you shared that with us. Would you like to close with letting people know how they can learn more about you and your work, such as your social media, website, things like that?
Sure. The fastest way to learn about me and my work is to scour my website. That's www.actressrebekah.com. Rebekah. That's my name. And there's lots to see there. There's pictures, videos, my blog. You can find links there to connect with me on social media. Uh, you can definitely come find me on Facebook, where I have a fan page and also a personal profile. I post updates about what I'm doing, encouraging articles, thoughts. I also pass along the actors out there. I pass along casting calls I think are interesting, so you'll definitely want to connect there. I'm not super active on Twitter, but I do pop in now and again. Still learning how that works, honestly. That edge of technology a bit late. I have a profile on Actors Access. I'm, and of course now CFDb. And if anyone is interested, I do plan to teach again at the Christian Worldview Film Festival. It's being held next March, middle of the month, down in San Antonio, Texas. And I'd love to meet in person.
That sounds fantastic. I want to thank you again, Rebekah, for taking the time to talk with us today. You have been listening to CFDb Interviews. For more about CFDB, please check out our website at christianfilmdatabase.com.